There is something, certainly, in the air right now. And no, I'm not talking about the trees blooming and the pollen that some people suffer allergies from. No, it's something different. Sometimes I feel like I feel it. You ever feel like you can smell it? Perhaps even taste it? Blood. Sometimes I feel like I can smell the metallic odor of it. Perhaps even taste the coppery, the iron taste of it. Just a hint of things that are to come. Nowadays, things are teetering on the edge of madness. In a lot of ways, I would argue that we have descended into madness as a society, of course. You see it so much in the media, which is why I largely avoid any mainstream media nowadays. Because it's so explicitly anti-white, and it's literally got us to the point. It's stirred up the hornet's nest, I guess you could say. It's got us to the point where we're willing to tear each other apart in a lot of ways. Except in the mainstream media's case, they have directed other races to act this way towards ours. Violence, blood, rage, fury. These are all feelings that I have to admit sometimes here lately I have felt. In a way, I guess it could be said I'm just a victim of the propaganda to feel such a way. It's a very irrational way to feel. But then again, it's also very rational. Now I know I'm certainly not the smartest, and definitely not the most well-spoken when I make these videos. I'm not the most articulate or eloquently well-spoken. And I accept that because I'm self-aware and I know my limitations. I don't brag about myself often because, it's not a lot to brag about. But one thing I will say, that throughout my life, I have always been self-aware. I'd say I'm pretty good at that. You know, irrationality is something that I know well. After all, I've talked about it before. I spent several years as a drug addict and a criminal. It's a very, very chaotic time. But even when I was engaged in this lifestyle, I was self-aware. I knew what I was. I knew what I was doing was killing myself in a way. I knew that I was doing many, many wrong things. I was self-aware. I still did them, though. Still did the wrong things. Still poisoned myself, but I never once lied to myself and convinced myself to think otherwise. Perhaps you could call that madness. Repeating certain behaviors and expecting different outcomes, but honestly, I never expected any different outcomes, so I don't think you can qualify that as madness. So I know irrationality. People who do meth, they're often very irrational, as I was, but at least I knew it. And I consider myself a fairly rational person now. I'm certainly not a violent person by any means, although if pushed to it, I will fight. And I think that's what all the media and all the news out there and all the, for lack of a better word, it's rage porn, you know? And that's one thing I have noticed, sadly. You know, when there's two divisions, I guess you could say, of media that I'm speaking of here, where I'm talking about, of course, the mainstream media, the mainstream corporate entities that are able to pump their filth into the malleable minds of the masses who are willingly to believe such things. You know, I don't watch such shit as that anymore. And I'm also talking about the media, like social media, that I myself make, and many others that I watch. And you know, I've noticed one thing, and it's sad to me in a way. And the Antlered One, in one of his videos the other day, mentioned this. You know, the videos that I make, and I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I make some videos that I would consider as rage porn. You know, it's meant to rile people up. It shows how shitty and how just ruinous things are nowadays. It points out how explicitly anti-white the resistance, and it's so funny they call themselves the resistance when they've got the backing of our government, every major multinational corporation, every bit of academia, every source of media other than what we produce here. And it's not just me, there's so many others. A lot of the channels that I've named before that I enjoy watching, we do the same thing. But I have noticed, going back to my original point, that sadly it seems to me that the videos of mine that does the best are rage porn videos. You know, I make a lot of videos where I go fishing, go hiking, do things. And you know, sadly, those videos don't do as well, you know. I live in a beautiful place, and I feel it'd be a damn shame to share it all, to not share it with you. And I wish these videos did better, because honestly, I see just me getting, heck, just even though I'm making a video now, I'm sitting out here in the woods, I hear the birds singing, there's some dogs raising hell in the background. But you know, I like this. It's calm, it's peaceful. You know, I have to do these things because I feel the world around me is just getting crazier and crazier. The insanity is just reaching abhorrent highs. And you know, this is all by design. It's all part of modernity. And I know I've pondered before that things are going to go out with a weak whimper. But honestly, I feel like things are going to reach a climax here soon. Or maybe I'm completely mistaken and we're just getting started. I don't know. I try not to prognosticate and worry about the future too much because I'm just one person. Each of us are all just one person. And you know, you can feel powerless a lot of times. I'm guilty of it, although we do have some power. It's just a matter of applying it appropriately. But as I said, it just feels to me that the world around us is getting more and more insane. And as I said earlier, I'm a fairly rational person, and I'm also a patient person. Oftentimes in life I've thought that perhaps I'm too patient. But I know here lately I have been guilty of feeling these things. Anger, frustration. And you know, one thing I've noticed from when I was younger, that it's sort of a vicious cycle. between anger and depression. I wouldn't say I've ever been a terribly depressed person because, you know, can't stay down too long, you know. Can't let it get to you. But I know it seems like it's one or the other when I was younger at times. And I know many of you feel the same. I was just speaking to a guy who watches my videos named External Extrapolations. And we were talking about, he left a comment just a couple of hours ago on a previous video where he says the same exact thing that I'm speaking of here today. And then he also leaves something at the end. He mentions the Creedence Clearwater Revival song, Green River. And whenever you're done with this, perhaps look it up on YouTube, or if you've got it on your phone, or whatever you use to listen to music. Perhaps you've got the album, or as the CD, or whatever. Listen to it. This is why I go out in the woods and do stuff. Because I want to come home. I want to get away from it all. Because if I don't, I feel that insanity consumes me. And I mean, I'm not immune to such things. I mean, as I said earlier, these visions of violence, fire, blood, they creep into my head once in a while. They do. And I know that this sounds crazy and irrational. But what the question that I have to ask ultimately is, if it's making me not the most intelligent, not the most well-spoken, but fairly rational and self-aware, if it's making a person like me feel this way, to feel this sort of thing, what's it doing to people who are less rational, who are more irrational, and people who have a much shorter fuse than I do? In this video here, I made a few weeks ago, I said that the things that are held the dearest here in modernity, they are gross affronts to Mother Nature herself. And it's true. It's completely true. It's hard to know. It's hard to know how to react. You know, honestly, there was the Clown World meme that came out a couple of years ago where you just laugh. And honestly, I have done this. I see the insanity around me, I laugh. You see cities burning down, executed by BLM or Antifa, and the fires are stoked by the mainstream media and their talking heads. I laugh. But there's quickly a time coming, I think, where this shit isn't funny anymore. And I hate to say it, it's coming to us. And I also hate saying I don't think we're going to be able to run forever. Time's coming where I may not be able to go to the river or get out in the woods, because this sort of shit is going to be at our front doorstep. I feel it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope my senses are misleading me. But I feel it. Have you ever been out in the woods and stumble upon a deer, and the deer hears you and it looks around? It doesn't see you at first, but it knows something is there. That's how I feel. I feel as the deer does in this situation. Except I know something's there, something's coming, but but I don't know how or which tree it will pop out from behind of. So yeah, I try not to, and I think it's important, all of us, to try to get out and do things. You don't have to go fishing or hunting. You could plant a garden. You can do some woodworking like my friend Mike over at Bleak Narratives does. You gotta have hobbies. You can't sit on the internet all day and read stuff and then honestly engage in this rage porn. It's good to be aware of such things, but honestly, anything that I'm seeing is nothing new. White kid gets murdered by a person of color. Media absolutely silent. A black criminal resisting police, acting violently. The media goes on about it for 2 years. Half the city's burned. I'm aware of all of this. So I think it's important to get away from it. But lastly, as I said, the ultimate question here is, if it's making me feel this way, what's it doing to those who are a bit less rational and those with a much shorter fuse? Thank y'all for watching. Bye-bye.